let's get into it. First opening question. If you were on the 2017 Astros, what would your slash line have been?
Oh my gosh. I mean, we kind of talked about this before. Like, you just can't quantify how much knowing what pitch is coming helps you. So and I know we've done like the home and away splits, and some of them are good, some of them aren't that good, which I don't really understand. All I can think of is a lot of the guys, maybe there were times where they wanted it, times they didn't want it, because that does happen. Sometimes you'll be like, yeah, give me that pitch. I want to know everything. And then there's some guys you face like, I don't need it. So it was better than 2018 slash line that I actually had, because that was probably the worst year of baseball I've ever played.
I have it up here, but I wasn't going to read it because,
it's really bad. It was going to be a bounce back year for me, and then I didn't bounce back.
You forgot to bounce back. Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot that part. So.
The Astros cheated. The banging is real, and all the other stuff for you Astros fans, I don't think it's proven yet. I don't think the whistles are proven. I don't think the eyeliner, the buzzers, they're all just rumors, and maybe they didn't happen. But the banging in 2017 is very real. It was banging before pitches, and the only reason you would bang to let a batter know the pitch is because of cameras, right? Is there any way that the banging would make sense without cameras? They wouldn't need it, right?
It was too often and too quick for it to be from a generic, regular old, I have a tip on you type thing. Because, it was going from pitcher to pitcher, and it was so accurate. It happened unless you're literally looking at the signs. So we know that that's real. That's like, you can't even, if there's any Astros fans out there that are still questioning if they cheated and stole signs in 2017s and banged on a trash can, you're delusional. Like, that happens. Like, that's 100% true. So we'll see what happens with that. The other stuff, I thought you said the whistling was proven. I read some articles on that. You can kind of get the sound here and there, but it's the definitive proof is the banging.
Yeah, now they're saying like they were changing the whistling, and then there's that charge whistle, and a lot of Astros fans said like, no, that dude's a staple in the stadium. Like, the broadcast asked him to be quiet. So I'm backpedaling a little on the whistling, even though I never was that too deep. I thought for sure it's something. I think the Yankees heard it, and they were going into Houston like listening, like active ears, like let's figure out what they're doing. So, but the banging's real, and then logically, just like deductive reasoning, if you win the World Series with the method in place, and you think the rest of the league is doing stuff like this as well, you're not going to just morally be like, okay, we're done. You're going to change the relay system. So
their culture, has guided them into this type of mindset, like it starts from up top. We saw the email that came out asking the scouts and the advanced scouts to do whatever they could to get signs. So it was coming from the top, leaking down to the players. And like you said, you start to have success with something. Maybe you start to rely on it, and then all of a sudden it just becomes commonplace, and you go from there. So I went to Houston twice in 2000. I'm pretty sure, we'd have to look this up, but I'm pretty sure I went there with both Oakland and Tampa. And I do not remember the banging, which now when you go back and look at the games, it seems like, how could you not hear that?
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, because this is something that me and Jim haven't been fully able to wrap our heads around, and we don't know if we're giving too much respect or not enough. But when we thought about this, and we thought about the Houston Astros and the players, like, we're baseball dudes. Like, I don't know. There's something that hurts your soul when you actually hear they were using the cameras and stuff like that. Like, that's so not baseball. It hurts. And we were thinking about the guys in the Houston organization, and it really was all these young guys that came up through Houston, or like, Gurriel, that Houston's his only team he knew. And, you go through the main guys, Springer, Altuve, Bregman, et cetera, that we've kind of give them a little bit of a pass, just because, like, hey, if this is all you know, this is all you know. So I mean, is that where people should be thinking, or do you think these guys kind of need to be thrown in front of the bus a little more?
I see what you're saying there. Like, oh, hey there. I see what you're saying. When you come up, you're a young guy. Like, you're going to listen to who the older guys are. No matter what, like, the Astros, a lot of these teams now, they're letting the young guys, hit in the middle of the lineup. They're letting them kind of do a lot of things that maybe necessarily didn't happen even 5, 6, 7 years ago, where it was mostly veterans making all these decisions. So like there are teams that do that, but I'm telling you right now, there's no way that one of those guys, those young guys, came in and said, like, let's implement this. It was definitely an older guy, and I think the reports have been saying that as well. You can't really necessarily name a name of who it was, but in my thinking, if I came and Justin Morneau or a Josh Willingham type figure for me, it was like, hey, this is what we're doing. I got to be honest with you, man. I probably would have bought into it. And it's just because they're essentially the boss, like these older guys on the team, that you listen to those guys. You're going to do whatever they tell you to do, especially your first couple of years. You start to get your identity a little bit later in your career, but so I do see where you're coming from, but it's definitely there's still fault there. They're not just like, hey, like those guys didn't have anything to do with it because they're young guys. Like they still went along with it, and we definitely know what happened in 2017. We don't know about 2018-19 definitively, but you gotta let them wear some of the responsibility as well.
Yeah, I heard some people say this to me, and it's on the same thing. Like maybe like these guys actually thought everyone was doing it to this extent. And a lot of Astros fans will say, we're not the only ones that are doing this. And a lot of the reporters said, they're not the only team doing this as well, which I believe to an extent, because why are all the fingers being pointed at the Astros if there's more teams that are doing it to this extent? This is honestly just my opinion. I think maybe these younger guys did think, hey, this is league wide. Like we're just trying to do it better than everyone else. So do you think this is league wide? Like I know that teams go to lengths to steal signs. We've seen it with the Red Sox with the iPad. That was Cora after he left the Astros. There was something interesting there. The Yankees got fined for misusing their bullpen phone, which every Astro fan has sent me my way, but they didn't use it to steal signs. They just fucking misused the bullpen phone. Is this rampant? Do you think every team is like trying to this extent? Top-down operation?
I think teams are trying to do whatever they can to pick up on either the catcher sequences, kind of like the regular stuff, like what pitchers are doing, where they're coming set and whatnot. I do not think that there are multiple teams using cameras, like a live feed direct to somebody relaying signs. I don't think that's league wide. Is it just the Astros? Obviously, you can't say that definitively, but I've now played in, 5 organizations, and that's never even come up. So
I had a scout reach out to me when that email leaked, and he was like, dude, I've been a scout for 20 years. He gave me this team and proved he was a scout, but he asked me to stay quiet. But he was like, that email is fucking crazy. That is not normal to ask scouts to help install cameras or binocular
scouts
spots.
Are old school. Yeah, scouts do not want any part of that,
Yeah.
You can argue that the new age type of front offices, the guys, I don't want to, categorize guys just as Ivy Leaguers, but, those kind of front offices coming in, you have like the Wall Street guys, type numbers type guys, maybe they don't have that type of love for the game or the history of the game. So it could be more of like these guys come in and say, hey, we could win like this, and this is going to make us better, and go implement it. That's kind of what happened. And if that's the case, then you kind of got to look around the league, because there are a lot of these front offices that are built the same way now.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. I have to ask you this because people will tell me, why didn't you ask? But I hate when people ask me this, so you can give whatever bullshit answer you want. What do you think the punishment should be?
Yeah, it's a tough one. Yeah, I've thought about it a lot. I think if it comes back and it's a 2017 thing where it's like, hey, this is isolated to this year, I think that you can do the draft picks. If it's 1, if it's 2, I think there's got to be some suspension of their manager and possibly the general manager. I think those are I think everyone's almost like in agreement with that. But if it extends to 2018 and 2019, then I think we got to start talking about, something a little bit different, possibly a postseason ban or something like that.
Yeah.
Something, it's crazy if you say 1 year, I get it. You did this thing, and maybe MLB got wind of it, and you shut it down. But if you start doing it for multiple years, I think there's got to be like a huge punishment, because they're trying to deter other teams. That's basically, I think, all I want is all we want is just the game to not have this anymore.
It's terrible for the game. If every time someone hits a home run or they're on a pitch that we think like, oh shit, maybe this team's doing it too. My thing is, at this point, I'm so fed up with the Astros fans coming at me every single day that if the MLB comes out and said, we did a full investigation, we are 100% positive they cheated, I'll be like, fine, that's punishment enough for me, because you guys can't say dick to me anymore. Shut up. I just think they need to make it harsh for the future. Right. So like, I don't know.
What is that though? Like, what's harsh, like,
yeah, I mean, Jake said this once and it kind of sounds hot takey, but like, if they did it for 3 seasons, fucking ban Hinch.
Look, that's on the table. I guarantee you that's on the table. Not only Hinch, but the front office as well. Like, they're looking at, it's not just a suspension, bans. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've heard like Lunau's going to step down and be blackballed, and then, Hinch might be suspended. But if it's 3 years, if everything that's alleged comes to be out to be true, and who knows, the buzzers, they seem crazy enough that maybe I hope they're not true, because that's fucking terrible. But if those come out to be true, it needs to be big.
What do you do with the players too then?
Dude, I don't know how you handle the players, because I don't know how you handle the players. I don't think you can do that. But I think if you ban Hinch, no one cares. He's not, like, no one cares besides Hinch and his family and friends, because he's not fucking Pete Rose, Hall of Famer. He's not Shoeless Joe Jackson, who was one of the best players in the league at the time. You know what I mean? It's AJ. I don't. He's well respected before this, but
I understand what you're saying.
It's pretty easy to do.
And same thing with the general manager. Like, no offense to either of those guys, but if you're at the helm, you got to take responsibility. I mean, they say it after every loss. Oh, I got to wear this one. This one's on me. Whatever. Well, now you're getting accused of something, that's game changing. Like, history is going to remember this if they get convicted. Maybe forever. But at least it's a big story.
If it's all true and they get in trouble, this is the Astros identity for like 20 years. Like, they would have to. It'd be a long time before the Astros aren't. No,
do you think they care if they take a World Series title away? Just say this: hey, we're going to strip them of this title. Like, obviously, you don't get to hang the flag. None of these guys do. Or let me ask you: do you think these guys get to call themselves World Series champions?
They not publicly, like, and even fans, like, you're not going to brag about it, because everyone's just going to respond and be like, well,
it's the scene from Semi-Pro. It's what's his name on the back of the bus, and he turns to Monix and he goes, "Yeah, riding the bench like a bitch." Like, it's gonna be like you guys, like, I think when you guys said players, like, no, I think these players are gonna have stink on them for life. Like, that's their punishment. Like, and I think the other thing, and Trev, I'm not saying this to hit your core, but baseball's a young person sport. I mean, the only time we've really seen old dudes thrive in baseball was the steroids era. Baseball is a young person sport that, like, you know what, Springer, he's going to hit free agency next year. And, Bregman's Altuve's getting older and he's got a small body. Like, look what happened to Pedroia. Like, baseball falls off quickly, and I think these guys' careers are naturally kind of start going downhill, and everyone's going to say, oh, yeah, it's a lot tougher, Springer, when you don't know what pitch is coming, huh? And I think that's what they're getting.
Or not, they're going to get that for the next 10 years. However long they play, that's all anyone's ever going to say to them. The funny thing that I think about with this situation is they paid a lot of these guys, right?
Yeah, that's the weird part.
They went a 7-year, $100 million. Is that what it was? Something like that?
Yeah.
It turns out they were cheating for 3 years of your, like, reference on him. Like, that's not a very smart, business move for you. Like, maybe you don't know what this guy's like without. And I'll say this: I think he's a hell of a player, and I don't think he needs the pitches. I think he's that good. But I mean, you're basing what you're paying this guy off what he has done for you. And
maybe Bregman says, "Hey, I'm going to rat you. I'm going to rat out. Pay me my money."
Yes. I mean, look, dude. It's such a like. There's so many caveats with this situation. I mean, we just tend to talk about the cheating and then what's going to happen to the organization or what are the punishments going to be. But like stuff like that, like players who aren't that good or were on the team for a little bit, I think if this comes out, you're going to start seeing more and more people just come give a little bit more tidbits of information here, tidbits of information there, and we're going to start to see the whole picture. Like, there's no doubt.
Apparently, the MLB offered like amnesty to any player that was on the Astros that comes out. Like, you won't get in trouble. But
they're going to have there's people lining up for their amnesty. I promise you that, because no one wants to deal with this. I mean, if you get suspended as a player, I mean, these guys are making big money, and you're going to lose $4, $5, $6, $7 million.
What about this punishment that I thought of the other day? What if on opening day 2020 for the Astros, before the game starts, they have to take down the flag in front of the full stadium, and then they have to put up a flag that says 2017 cheated, and they have to slowly pull it up, and then they do the national anthem. And then they start the 2020 season. That's pretty good punishment.
That's really bad. I mean, talk about a highlight.
And the camera crews, they have to scan the entire audience as it's got to be picture in picture, flag going up, and they just need to scan all the Astros fans' faces watching the cheated flag go up. And then I'll make a breakdown of all their faces. They
should do that anyway. It would catch buddies so off guard if it's like proactively they did that at the start of 2020, just like drop the flag down.
Oh man.
just like they all had their rings and like gave the box back.
Yeah, they just all had to open up their hands, and then one by one a guy walked down.
And like a few lashings, like a guy behind that with like smacking the back.
Shame.
If they were smart, they would do that. They'd start proactively preparing. That's pretty good, though. I like that one.
Joe Torre taking all the rings off the players is a pretty good image in my head.